We're going to look at an array list, a collection of objects. So I'll call this project ArrayList. And the example I'll use will be an array list of movies. So I'll have a class inside of this project, and I'll call the class Movie ArrayList. You can make yours about whatever you like. We are going to use a bunch of strings in this example. So we're going to learn how we can use an array list, how to make and use an array list. They differ from arrays because arrays are fixed in size. Once you declare an array, its size doesn't change. But an array list can adjust in size. It can grow and shrink as necessary. Let's declare an array list. Notice it's going to be a capital A and a capital L for array list. That's how we'll start it, with array list. And then inside the less than and greater than signs, which we'll call diamond operators, we'll put the kind of object that will be in here. And it is going to be strings. We're going to make an array list of strings. They're going to be names of movies. So I'm calling this movie list equals new array list. Notice we're going to have to import something. Eclipse is telling us we're going to have to get ArrayList out of the Java Utilities package. And now we're ready to go. We're going to add some movies to this array list using the .add method. So the name of the array list is movie list. I'll have movie list.add. And then in parentheses, I'll put a string with the name of a movie. How to Train Your Dragon. You can use any movies you want, or maybe your array list is about something else. We're just going to keep using .add to add to our array list. Next I'll have the Lego movie. With another implementation of movie list.add. Ooh, try to give me add all. I don't need add all, just .add. Toy Story. Let's check out our array list. We'll display what's in there right now. So we're going to display the current movie list, and we'll use .get to obtain the data inside the movie list, which is, of course, an array list. Here's a prompt to let us know that we're going to look at the current list of movies. Then we'll use a for loop to go through or traverse the entire movie list. So I'll have int I equals 0, and then I is less than movie list dot size, not dot length. And notice dot size is a method. It's going to have parentheses right after it. Dot length is an actual field of arrays that we can directly access. But array lists have dot size, so that's another important difference. All right, so now we're going to display with system.out.println movie list, and then .get, and in parentheses we'll put the index we need, which will be I. We're going to .get the movie at index 0, index 1, index 2, or I should say more specifically the string at each one of those indices. There they are, all three movies. I was 0, 1, and 2, and we were in good shape. If we want to add more movies to the movie list at any time, we just use movie list.add. So I'll go back up. Notice here's two arguments. That's not what we want right now. We're going to check that out later. To simply add a movie to the list, we're going to put it in parentheses, and there is Shrek. Again, use any movies you desire. Next I'll have Jungle Book. Movie list.add, and I'll put another string because, again, it's an array list of strings. We'll put the Lion King, and we'll get ourselves one more, The Incredibles. And we now can see the current movie list with all 7 of the movies. And again, here's a reminder that the way to find how big an array list is is by using dot size, not dot length. And dot size is a method. It needs parentheses after it. So we'll prompt the users to know that we're going to show them the size of the movie list. That'll be the number of movies. And it's movie list dot size. We'll check this out to make sure it really works. And it does. We have 7 movies, and that's what shows in our sentence there. We have 7 movies. If I take out 3 movies, now there's 4 movies. Back to where we were. If we want to insert a movie into the list, not just add one at the end, because .add adds it to the end when we just put our object in there. But if we want to insert a movie into the list, this is where we're going to use those 2 arguments we saw before. So here's .add. The first argument is going to be an integer, where we want to put it. We're going to add ours into the 3 spot, and we'll insert Finding Nemo. So it's .add, and then 2 arguments, the integer of where we want it to go, and then what we want to go in there, which is Finding Nemo. I'm going to copy and paste this for loop and display of the number of movies, because it's going to be the same thing. Currently in the 3 spot is Jungle Book. How to Train Your Dragon is 0, Lego Movies 1, Toy Story 2, and then Finding Nemo has now been added at the 3 spot. Nothing disappeared, it's just that's where Finding Nemo was added to the list. The list still has all the movies that were there in the first place, but Finding Nemo was added at the 3 spot. If you want to remove a movie at a certain index, we can do that with .remove. With movielist.remove, we can get rid of the movie at a certain index. If we put the index of 6, then the movie that's at that spot will disappear from the list. I'll paste that for loop and the display of how many movies there are, and we'll see what happens to that movie at index 6. Looks like that movie is The Lion King. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is The Lion King, and then it's gone. It's been removed. We can also remove an object by simply naming the object. So if we have movielist.remove and then put in Shrek, which is the actual object that we want to remove, not knowing at what index we would find it, again, I'll paste that for loop and the notation about how many movies we have. Let's see what happens. We did have a list featuring Shrek, and now it's gone, and the number of movies is decreased to 6. If you try to remove an object that isn't there, what happens? Well, let's try to remove a movie that's not on the list. It's like Cinderella. Will it crash the program? Will it take something else out? What happens? Once again, I'll paste that same code, and we'll discover that nothing happened. It couldn't find Cinderella, so the number of movies was 6. It still is 6, and the array list has all the same movies in it. So if you try to remove an object that isn't there, it will look for it. If it can't find it, it just moves on. If you want to replace a movie on the list, we do this with .set, not .replace. A lot of times people think that's what we need to use as .replace. We don't have that. We have .set. And we will have 2 arguments for this. The first one is the index where we want this replacement to happen. I'll put in 4. And then what we want to replace it with, Frozen. It looks like Jungle Book is in the 4 spot right now. Again, I pasted those lines of code. We'll take a look here. We have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Jungle Book's in the 4 spot. And then later on, in the 4 spot is now Frozen. So Jungle Book has been replaced with Frozen at index 4. Let's see what happens when we use the .toString method that an array list has. All objects have toString methods. So we'll print a prompt here to let everyone know we're going to observe what happens when we use the toString method of an array list. So we'll do system.out.println and then movielist.toString. Let's see what we get with that toString method. It's all of the movies inside brackets, separated by commas. So every object in the list appears inside brackets, separated by commas. That's what a toString method will do for you when you use it in an array list. If you wish to display the current movie list using an enhanced for loop, it is certainly possible. Again, enhanced for loops are a useful tool to use when we don't really care about what index we're at. If we're going to have to display all the movies anyway, we could use an enhanced for loop. So for string, I'll just call it movie in movie list, which is an array list of strings. I'll use system.out.println and put the movie in there, because movie is a string that will eventually equal every movie inside the movie list. And it looks just as it appeared when we had it with a for loop with a counter. So again, array lists, we can make them bigger, we can make them smaller, so they're very flexible. But we only use them with objects. I used strings this time. If you choose to use an array list with integers or doubles, you'll have to actually use the capital I for the wrapper class for integer or capital D for the wrapper class for double. We may take a look at that later on.